Hey guys, it's Ms. Jaco. I am here to go over the Lesson 3 homework pages with you. Remember, this is intended to help you with the Lesson 3 problem set, so that is what you are going to be completing and turning in the Lesson 3 problem set. We are just using the homework to help you because the questions are very similar and it should help prepare you to do the Lesson 3 problem set independently. All right, so your must do for lesson 3 is number 2. Remember, you can always go above and beyond and really get that extra practice in these math skills by doing the entire problem set, but the expectation is that you only have to do number 2. So if you don't do the rest, that is still okay. I do want to go over a couple besides number 2, just so we can get a full understanding of all the questions being asked, especially to kind of help out those who are doing the entire problem set and need like some explanation on the questions that are not must-dos. All right, so the directions for number 1 and number 2, it says use the RDW strategy to solve problems number 1 and 2. So RDW stands for read, draw, write. So we're going to read the question, we're going to draw a model, and then we're going to write our answer as a sentence. So looking at number 1, it says Jeffrey practiced his drums from 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. How many minutes did he practice? Use the number line to show your work. Okay, so here we are going to use this number line to model from what time until what time to see how many hours did he practice and then turn that into minutes. So he practiced from 4 p.m. So I'm going to model 4 p.m. on my number line until 7 p.m. So remember, it's asking how many minutes did he practice. This number line is just showing our hours. And if I look from 4 to 7, that is 3 hours. So now I'm asking, okay, 3 hours is equal to how many minutes? Now, I hope you guys have out your practice sheet in front of you, because if you watch the concept development video with Ms. Forkner, she helped you guys fill out that practice sheet, and it's going to be really helpful if you have that in front of you to see those conversions and you don't have to try and remember them. They're right there for you to look at. Okay, so if we are looking at our practice sheet, we would see that 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. So you talked about with Ms. Forkner how the rule for turning hours into minutes is taking the number of hours and multiplying times 60. So you might have made connections to our lessons 2 and lessons 1 where the conversions looked similar to this. We would just be multiplying times something different. So same thing here. We're taking the number of hours and multiplying that times 60. So how many hours do we have? We've got 3. We're going to be multiplying that times 60. So I'm going to do 60 times 3 off to the side. So 3 ones times 0 ones is 0 ones. And then I'm doing 3 ones times 6 tens, which is 180. I'm going to add my products all together to get 180. So because it was just 3 hours, there was no extra minutes in addition to that. 3 hours is equal to 180 minutes. So I drew a model here. I read the problem, I drew a model, and now I'm ready to write out my answer. So Jeffrey practiced his drums for 180 minutes. And I'm making sure to include my unit. I'm not just saying 180, I'm making sure to include that it was minutes. Because if you're not including your unit, it's 180 what? 180 minutes, 180 seconds. We need to make sure to include our units in there. All right, so taking a look at number 2, remember this is your must-do problem. I have it highlighted to help you remember that. It says, Isla used her computer for 5 hours over the weekend. How many minutes did she spend on the computer? So remember, we're doing the same thing. We're going to read the problem, which is what we just did. We're going to draw a model, and then we are going to write out our answer as a sentence. So I'm going to draw a tape diagram as my model. And I know the whole thing is representative of the 5 hours that she used her computer over the weekend. And we're trying to figure out how many minutes. Well, I can take my tape diagram and split it up into 5 pieces, each of it representing an hour. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, that's going to be too big. I'm making sure to double count my spaces that I create because I don't want my area model to be inaccurate. So now I've got 3, 4, 5. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each block represents the hour that she practiced, or sorry, hour that she was on her computer. So then we are going to take each one of these hours and turn it into minutes. So remember, if we have our practice sheet in front of us, then we would know that 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes. So each of these hours is equal to 60 minutes. And we are going to be doing 60 minutes times 5 because we've got 60 plus 60 plus 60 plus 60 plus 60. So that's like repeated addition, which is the same thing as multiplication. Remember, also our rule for turning hours to minutes is taking the number of hours and multiplying times 60. So I'm going to do 60 times 5 off to the side here. I've got 5 ones times 0 ones, which is 0. And then I've got 5 ones times 6 tens, which is 300. I'm going to add it all together. I get 300. So I read the question, I drew my model, and now I'm going to write out my answer. So you can see. Making sure to include my unit. Okay, so that is it for number 2. Hopefully you found that helpful in completing the must do on the problem set. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Okay, so I'm going to skip right on to number 4 because I know with the lesson 1 and lesson 2, a lot of people did these questions where you had to convert mixed units into a single unit, and some of us really struggled with that. So I do want to make sure to go over these so my people who do the entire problem set, you feel comfortable trying this on your own. All right, so looking at number 4A, we've got 10 hours, 30 minutes, and we're turning that into just minutes. So like I said on the other page, we really want to make sure that we are focusing on what units we are working with and seeing what do we have, what do we want to turn it into, so that way when we look at the practice sheet, we know exactly where to look. So we've got hours and minutes, so hours and minutes, and we're trying to turn it into just minutes. So I already have some minutes here that can be like they're already in minutes, but I need to turn these hours into minutes. So remember from the first page, my rule for turning hours into minutes is multiplying times 60. I'm taking the number of hours and multiplying it times 60. So I am going to do a area model to solve a 2-digit times 2-digit number. I've got 10 times 60. Remember, the area model is what we have taught you guys on how to solve a 2-digit times 2-digit multiplication problem. So we've got 60 times 10, which is 600. I've got 60 times 0, which is 0, 10 times 0, which is 0, and then 0 times 0, which is 0. So all together, My 60 times 10 is 600. Some of you might have not even needed to do an area model to realize that, because when we know that from module 1, if you multiply anything times 10, everything moves up one place value to the left. So we turn 10 hours into 60 minutes. And then, like I said before, we have some 30 minutes here that need to be added on to our answer before we have like a final thing here. So we've got 60 minutes plus 30 minutes, which is 90 minutes. Some of us forget to add on these last, like when we have a mixed unit, some of us forget to either turn the second part into whatever unit we're turning into, or they forget to add it on. So just make sure that you are thinking about that when you're thinking about the mixed units. All right, so let's take a look at B. Here we've got 6 minutes, 15 seconds, and we're trying to turn that into seconds. So we've got minutes and seconds, and we're trying to turn it into just seconds. So notice how I'm focusing on that place, or not place value, I'm focusing on the units that we're working with. So if you are looking at your practice sheet, you would see that 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds. So the rule for turning minutes into seconds is taking the number of minutes, multiplying that times 60. So the same thing as turning our hours into minutes. So I'm going to multiply my 6 times 60 to get my number of seconds. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 ones times 6 tens is 360. I'm going to add it all together. I get 360, but I'm not going to forget about the 15 seconds that I have already. So that needs to be added on to my 360 seconds. And that gives me 375 seconds total. Okay, let's take a look at another one. I think the last one I'm going to try for this problem set walkthrough is E. So here we're working with days. We have 23 days and 21 hours, and we're trying to turn it into just hours. So if we are looking at our practice sheet, we see that in one day there are 24 hours. So the rule for turning days into hours is multiplying times 24. So we're going to take these 23 days, multiply times 24 to get our number of hours. So like I said, with A, to multiply a 2-digit times 2-digit number, we're going to use an area model. So we're going to break apart my 23 into 20 and 3. It's kind of like writing it in expanded form. Oh, you guys can't see that. There we go. And then my 24 is going to be broken up into 20 and 4. So I'm going to multiply 20 times 20, which is 400. Because if you think of the SMILE strategy where we do 20 times 20, 2 times 2 is 4. Add on the 2 zeros, we get 400. And then 20 times 3 is 60. And then 20 times 4 is 80. And then 4 times 3 is 12. So I'm going to add up all of my partial products together. Six plus 8 plus 1 is 15. And that gives us 552 hours. But we are not done. We still need to add on the 21 hours that we were given to begin with. And we get 573 hours total. So with these types of questions, you really just need to make sure that you are focusing in on the units. What units are we being given? What are we trying to turn it into? What is the rule for turning those units into whatever unit we're trying to turn it into? And you're going to want to use that practice sheet. That's going to be really helpful for you to solve these questions, to have those conversions right there in front of you. All right, well, thank you so much for tuning into this problem set directions walkthrough. I hope you guys are doing well, and until next time.